Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Good evening and welcome to the Locker Room on this Friday night. We're an hour later than normal. Normally we're 5 o'clock for the more eagle-eyed of you that probably noticed that. But tonight it is all about Scotland. We're here till 7 o'clock. Myself, Graham Duffy, your host. Delighted tonight to be joined by Robbie Collins. Robbie, how are you?
I'm not bad, excited, confident, nervous. I think that there's a lot of emotions to describe tonight, but it is a must-win game, and we're touching a lot of stuff today with Scotland right now, but there's just a certain unease in there right now, being a Scotland fan, so it'll be interesting to see how this match goes.
Yeah, so Scotland are taking on Croatia, our final Nations League home game of the campaign. We've got one more game next week against Poland away from home. We'll be back on air for that as well, but tonight is all about Scotland against Croatia in the Nations League. 7:45 kickoff. Robbie's going to keep an eye on Twitter and find out the Scotland team, which should be announced around about 6:45. So we'll find out what the team's going to be. Now, Robbie, Scotland go into this game with 1 win in 16. But I think if you ask most Scotland fans, performances haven't been that bad. If you look at the Nations League games we played, we lost 2-1 to Croatia, 2-1 to Portugal, 3-2 to Poland, and 2-1 to Portugal. Performances are actually all right. It's just those late goals that have basically cost us in every single game.
Yeah, I mean, it really feels like when you get to the 85th minute plus, you just sort of expect a late goal coming at this point in theirs because it happens so often. But I think Mikey, who also does the show, makes a lot of good points that it's not been particularly that bad under Clarke, and that sort of begs the question, Clarke and a Clarke out and all that sort of thing. I think if you look at the way, we have played in some of these games, one of the best teams in the world, and we dominated them for most of the game. We absolutely dominated the park at points, so we definitely have the quality there. It's just that result, and one win since the last one being since June. It's not great on paper, but so you just need to look at their past performances to know, we're actually half
Yeah, I mean, our last win came September 23 when we beat Cyprus in the build-up to Euros, the qualifiers. It's not been a great run since then, but if you look at some of the games we've played, England, France, Holland, Croatia, Portugal, Poland, we're playing decent teams. I think if you look at some of the fixtures we've had, the Northern Ireland friendly game wasn't great. I think we're put in that game, but I think the one that I think frustrates most people is the Euros against Hungary. That must-win game was so disappointing because I thought they were there for the taking, but we didn't do enough in that game. But we have played some decent sides, so it's not been like we're playing poor quality teams.
Yeah, I mean, you just need to look at England, down the road. They're playing teams like Greece, who granted, we probably give Greece a good game right now, but they're no world beaters, and we are playing teams that tend to do really, really well in these tournaments. So the fact that we're even up here competing is a positive for me, and that's why I think Clarke deserves a bit more credit, because if you look at the teams we're playing, if we're losing to the Kazakhstans of the world and Gibraltar's and stuff, then understandable, you can give them a bit of slack, but we're losing to teams that are probably, position by position better than us. So I think people need to, take a bit more realism with Scotland and realise we're probably at the right level for where we should be.
I mean, if you look at the league table just now in the Nations League, Portugal sit top on 7 points, Croatia second on 7 points, Poland are sitting third on 4 points, and Scotland have 1 point. These next two games are really important, Robbie, because obviously in the Nations League, if you finish bottom, you can get relegated. That is looking quite likely. So these next two games are massive to try and keep us in this Nations League Group A.
Yeah, I mean, even if we do get relegated eventually, I still don't think it'll be the worst thing in the world. I think in terms of, I'm not quite sure how this ties into the World Cup qualifications and all that sort of stuff. I don't sort of seen anything on that yet, but maybe playing in the B League, as much as we all want to be in the A League and it's good to be here, we might pick up a few more results here and there that actually come together at one point. So I suppose there's positives and negatives to being in the A League. Any Scotland fan would probably tell you they want to be in the top division, compete with the best teams, but if we did fall down, I still don't think it'll be the end of the world.
I think there was something about the pots that it could be in, depending where we finish in this league. So I think it is important for that as well. But I think as well in terms of confidence, I think it's important Scotland wrap up the Nations League home games in style tonight. Now, of course, it's going to be difficult. We know Croatia are a good side. There likes Luka Modric in there. But this is a game I think Scotland can look forward to with a bit more optimism, because that Portugal game, the last game, you're looking at guys like Ronaldo, Bruno Fernandes, guys like that. You're right. We did very well against them. So I think we've got to go tonight with confidence, and the fact it's at home should help us, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at one of the Croatia football, accounts that post all the updates, and they were saying that the midfield is most likely to be Modric and Kovacic, and you look at the two players, you only need to look at the names to realise how good they actually are. Both respectively really good in their own right. So Scotland will be up against a massive test tonight, but we have our own good players. You're starting to look in the midfield and realise how strong could our midfield be. I mean, you just need to look at McTominay at Napoli right now. He's absolutely killing it in the Serie A. He seems to be scoring all the time. I know Gilmore's over there as well. John McGinn, obviously at Villa. So our midfield battle is just as strong as theirs. But we need to be aggressive tonight. We can't sit back and let Croatia come at us. We need to go. We need to get the goals, and we need to try and win this game, because I was listening to Steve Clarke in the press on. He was saying Croatia more than likely score 2 goals in every game they play. So we will need to try and score more than 2 goals in Steve Clarke's words to try and win this game.
Well, to try and keep Croatia out, I'd imagine that Craig Gordon will be in goals tonight. And it is incredible, Robbie, because we spoke about it previously. To come back from a double leg break and play for Hearts now consistently is incredible at his age. But also, it wasn't that long ago that he came off the bench for Scotland in what looked like his final game. And he's now Scotland starting number 1. It is quite incredible turnaround from him.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to give Gordon a lot of credit. They've been so easy with that double leg break to go, you know what, I'm finished, just hang up a bit, call it a day. But he's a fighter. He wants to come and play football, and he wants to come play for Scotland, and it's only a good thing. My thoughts on Xander Clarke, and I think he should be the goalkeeper for Scotland, but that's a conversation for a different day. I think Gordon probably will start tonight, although I don't know, Kieran Slicker's on the bench. Another goalkeeper, I don't know if he maybe gets some minutes tonight. I'm not sure. I do think he's another goalkeeper, but I still probably expect Gordon to get the number.
Was that a surprise call-up? Because I think when it came out, the Scotland squad a couple of weeks ago, I think a lot of folk were saying, Kieran who? Was that a surprise call-up for you?
Yeah, I mean, it always is. I mean, Clark's called up a few goalkeepers now. Obviously, I had McCracken up as well. Didn't really use him. So I think Clark's sort of chopping and changing his goalkeepers, trying to work out what's sort of the best fit for the future, because as we've seen since McCracken's returned, he's not been great at all for Dundee. I know he's recently fell out of team sheet with Carlson, so I don't think McCracken's looking confident right now. So I'm not surprised that he's called up Slicker, but I still don't think. I think it would have been McCracken, where I don't think he'll get any minutes, to be honest.
Good evening to Leo, who says McTominay captain tonight. I mean, you mentioned McTominay there, Robbie. What a season he's having for Napoli. We all know how good McTominay can be, and he basically has been Scotland's main goal scorer threat recently. But to go to Italy and, like you said, basically rip it up, he has been in incredible form. And you talk about midfield. The midfield is probably Scotland's strongest area, which is why I think guys like maybe David Watson, you're looking at Lewis Ferguson, who's back from fitness now, Lennon Miller. It's difficult to call these guys up because our midfield is our strongest area. And McTominay's been outstanding for Scotland and now Napoli.
Yeah, I mean, McTominay's been so impressive to watch. The Serie A, although, I'm not going to claim I watch it weekly, but for what I've seen, it's not an easy league to play in. It is full of really good players, talented players. So it was always going to be tough going over there, especially adapting for the Premier League, where it's a lot of slower tempo. I feel like the Serie A is more fast paced and teams want to get forward and get the ball playing. So he's adapted to it well, and he's done well. And I'm happy for McTominay, because a lot of Man United fans gave him a lot of criticism over his time at Man United, saying he wasn't good enough at the position he was playing in there. But I think he proves his worth at Napoli now, because he is starting to show real glimpses, and he is a really, really good player, as we know as Scotland fans. So I think our midfield's massive. Obviously, I think any time you load on Twitter right now, it seems to be, when is Lennon Miller going to get in the Scotland team? I think after Euros, a lot of people were rushed to maybe want change in the team. I think it's a smart decision by Clarke not to bring him in too quickly, because on one hand, you can get him in with experienced players and, get that training. But on the other hand, is it too young? Would that put too much pressure on them? So there's always questions, pros and cons to doing this type of thing. I think the midfield that we've got just now is perfectly fine. Obviously, we've got a Ferguson to come back in as well. So there's a lot of options for Steve Clarke, and to be honest, I think he's made the right choices.
Someone else I'd imagine will start tonight is his midfield partner, Billy Gilmore. Now, I've said on this show numerous times to Michael on that as well, I'm a big fan of Billy Gilmore. I love the fact that he always wants the ball. He never hides. He very rarely makes the wrong pass. I think Billy Gilmore right now is probably now cemented himself, or he should be, I think, as one of our main players in that team. Honestly, anytime I see him, I'm always impressed.
Yeah, Gilmore's an amazing talent, and I remember, I think a couple of seasons ago, he was linked to come back up the road, going on a loan move to Rangers potentially, but he sort of stayed put, and he's got his reward because he was outstanding in the Premier League for a bit, and he rightly so got his move away. So fair play to him. I agree with you. I think he probably should be a starter midfielder for Scotland, but then again, you've got so many midfielders that could start in that team. Kenny McLean is not one of them, and I know he has been picked for the squad. I cannot believe that we are still calling up the likes of McLean, and we'll obviously get on to the defence a bit later. But I do think another name to be mentioned is Connor Barron, because I get it, there's a lot of questions around Rangers right now in the way they're playing, but for the few times I've seen them, Barron, he's always one that's looking to try and drive forward with Rangers. I'm not saying he's on good form, but that is another name that you've got to fling into the hat for the team selection, because he can go in and make a difference in some type of games. So,
yeah, I mean, I think Barron's been decent at Rangers, but he had Rangers fan Andy on the show not long ago, and he was quite happy that Barron's played. I just think, again, the good thing that I'm looking at that Scotland team is, I think midfield is our strongest area. I think we've got a lot of options in there. Now, you look at that Scotland squad when he came out, you kind of said that there, Kenny McLean is a name that people just think, oh, what's he doing in there? I think he has his uses at times. Obviously, we can't forget the goal he scored against Norway in the qualifier for Euros, which was great. But I think there are better options in there. Now, is Connor Barron one of them? Potentially. But we know that one thing that Steve Clarke is loyal. He will pick players that he trusts, and he clearly trusts Kenny McLean. So if that team sheet comes out in about half an hour and Kenny McLean's in it, I don't think anyone's going to be the least bit surprised.
No, I'll not be surprised considering who I think might play centre-back tonight. But, I think you're right. I'm just maybe being a bit harsh on McLean. He is an experienced player. He's obviously, Steve Clarke's very loyal to him, and, the things that he's done for Scotland in the past. But if I was to ask you and ask any other Scotland fan, would you rather have that experienced McLean in there, or would you rather have the likes of Lennon Miller in there to, the young player that can sort of shine through?
Yeah, I think a lot of folk would probably say Lennon Miller, to be honest. And he is the name that is on everyone's lips just now. Now, I think Lennon Miller will get his chance because he's shown that he's a very, very good player. Would these last two Nations League games, is it just the fact that there's 2 games to go? We won't be playing again for a long time yet. Isn't it just the case that he's going to stick with the players that he's loyal to? Lennon Miller's been brilliant. He will get his chance, but maybe right now he just thinks, well, let's just get over the line these last 2 games, and then maybe the next Scotland squad, Lennon Miller might find himself in there. Not just him, maybe David Watson as well. Guys like that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are speaking about Lennon Miller and forgetting about Watson. I mean, the difference he's made coming. I mean, first of all, I'm surprised he's even coming off of the bench some weeks for Kelly, because I think he's a nailed-on start on most sides in the Premiership. But that's a name that not many people are mentioning in the Scotland team, and it's another one in the midfield, funnily enough, that can come in and make a difference. So there's so many names that we could bring up. I know Stephen's been very passionate online about getting Lennon Miller in the Scotland team. I think Mikey said it on the show the last international break that wait for the friendlies and then bring the likes of your Millers in and Watsons, and you can give them game time in there, because that sort of eases them in, and I understand it, but Scotland fans are starting to get frustrated, and I'm not personally, to be honest. I think it's the right decision leaving them right now, even though after the Euros, with the frustration, you probably would have said, you wanted these guys in, I wanted a bit of change. But I think majority of Scotland fans will expect change at this point. They want, that transitional period where we're bringing these type of guys in. And, I think some people are rushing it too much, because it takes time to transition a squad. It's no easy. When a national team have been together for so many years, and you've got that set group of players and they know each other inside out, and there's that real, solidity between the team, it's hard to sort of change that. So in a way, I can understand why Clarke's not really bringing in these players right now. But as you said, it'll come in time. They will start bringing in these type of players, like your Watsons, Millers, stuff like that into the team. So I think it's just going to take a bit of time.
Yeah, it's funny because when that Scotland squad was announced a couple of weeks ago for this last 2 Nations League games, I saw a lot of disappointment about him not maybe freshening it up a little bit, bringing different players in. And I do get it. I do get why folk were disappointed. But again, I think it goes back to that loyalty issue. The fact that he trusted these guys. He has got us to 2 Euros. He's got us into Nations League Group A. I think Steve Clarke's done a very good job. So I can understand why he didn't freshen it up that much. But I think after this couple of games, and now he's going to have this break, maybe after that he might start freshening it up. But I can understand why he didn't do it before. But again, I can get the flip side of saying, well, why didn't he freshen it up? There's only 2 games to go. It's a double-edged sword, but I do kind of understand both sides of it.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there. I mean, that is it exactly. It's, there's 2 arguments to the story here. Like, for me, I think it's right to stick with the squad that you know, because these are important games. A lot of people don't like the Nations League, but these aren't throwaway games for us. These are important. We need to win these games. So sticking with the squad that you know and you trust, Grant Hanley, it can, it's a squad that are capable of getting results. So I'm not surprised he stuck with it, because if you change up the squad, you don't really know what you're getting yet. So I think keeping the same squad in these important games is important, because we know these guys can get the win.
Okay, well, let's look at tonight, and let's look at what we think might happen in the starting 11. Now, we'll start from the front line. We'll start up front, because one thing that I've constantly said on this show, Robbie, to Michael and anyone else that will listen to me, is Scotland really lack options in that front line. Now, Che Adams has pulled out. We don't have much other options. Who would you give the starting nod to tonight? Because we all know that Lawrence Shankland's not been on top form. He's got 1 goal for Hearts this season. Tommy Conway's done decent so far at Middlesbrough. So who would you start tonight up front for Scotland?
It's a really tough one, and I've wrote down, a list of the attackers, and I actually found it interesting going through their stats this season. Now, this is including some of the wingers as well, but if we just look through the names, Armstrong, 1 goal, Conway, 5 goals. These are about 10, 11 games played each. Dykes, 0 goals. How is he in this team? Shankland, 1 goal. Doak, 1 goal. And Gold with impressive 10 goals. So, I mean, if you look at that attack, it isn't great at all. Them names combined don't even have 20 goals. So it is a real worry if you're a Scotland fan that, the attackers that we're calling up aren't finding the back of the net. Again, they're probably the best of a bad bunch, to be honest with you right now. But if I had to put a name on it, I think he'll probably start Shankland tonight, in my opinion. I think you just need to with that. I mean, if he starts Lyndon Dykes, who's not even found the back of the net this season, I will be astonished, because that is impressive, the stats I've read on Dykes. But I mean, Tommy Conway's another one. I think you said it before the show started, that can he maybe get a shot in the Scotland squad, because we've not really got to see much of him. So it's going to be interesting to see what Clarke does. But if I had to put a name on it, I'd probably pick Shankland to start.
If you're basing it on stats, then surely Ryan Gold has to start, given the stats you just read out there.
Yeah, I worry though that he might play Gold. I think, Gold's not really. I suppose he is playing striker, more in the MLS. But for the way Clarke plays, it wouldn't surprise me if he played Gold on the left, Doak on the right, and then Shankland through the middle, or Dykes through the middle. Is that sort of, that big poacher striker? So it'll be interesting to see what he does. But I'd agree with stats. You're probably need to start Ryan Gold.
I'm going to pick on a couple of players now you mentioned there. And obviously, from my point of view, I'll start with Lawrence Shankland, because I obviously know him. He's had a difficult season at Hearts. He's got 1 goal this season. He's got a few assists, but he does have 1 goal. Now, last season he got 31. Season before that, he got 28. He's been struggling for form this season. Now, I'll be honest, I was surprised that he was called up. But again, I think it goes back to the fact that we don't have many other options, because if we did, he wouldn't be in there. You'll have Aberdeen fans probably watching this saying Kevin Nisbet should be in there. I get that. Based on form, I think he probably should be. But the fact that Shankland's in there, and given the stats that you've read out there about Lyndon Dykes has scored no goals, I'll get to him shortly. Shankland needs something to go for him. He does have 1 goal for Scotland as well against Georgia. He needs something to go for him. But what I will say is, watching him this season, his overall game hasn't been that bad in some of the games. I can see why he would play, but he is struggling in front of goal. And when you've got a striker that's not scoring goals, that's a worry. But I get where you're coming from, and I actually do agree with you. I think there's a chance that Shankland might start tonight, but his form is very poor in front of goal.
Yeah, I mean, Shankland's a really odd one because I agree with you. I mean, if you ask anyone outside the Hearts fans, Shankland's season, they call it poor, but I go to watch him, obviously, when Hearts played St Mirren, and his overall game in that game I thought was decent as well. We got a nice touch for, I think, your first goal. I know in the European game, I know he missed that chance inside the first couple of minutes, but I thought his overall play in that game was decent as well. So Shankland is showing glimpses. He's just struggling to find the back of the net. I mean, at this rate, with the goals scored for each of these attacking players, you'd be better off putting John McGinn up front or something and playing off your midfield, because that's how bad the record is with some of these strikers. But I do think Shankland will start, and I always thought when he scored that one goal, that would kickstart the season, because that's usually what a striker needs. It feels like he maybe just needs a bit more than that to get the season started. I think he needs a couple of goals under his belt. And then, there's no doubt he'll be back to his best. People are very quick to write football players off, and I feel like some people wrote Shankland off far too early. There's still plenty of time left in the season. It's very early doors, both not even hit Christmas time yet. So I think Shankland is one that he will find his feet again.
Good evening to Aviation. Hope you're well, my man. Hope you're enjoying the show so far. Obviously, it's always a good show with me and Robbie are on. Sorry, Michael, you won't be watching this, so I'm joking, by the way. But yeah, I mean, the thing with Shankland is, and again, it's a weird one, because last season when he was scoring goals, he wasn't getting a shout to the Scotland squad. Now he's not scoring, he's in the squad, which is a weird one if you're based on it form. But yeah, I mean, Shankland just needs something to go for him. It might be a case of tonight that he does get a goal, and that just brings his confidence level up. But he needs something to go for him. But the thing I would say as well about Shankland is, and this is going to sound weird, but if he wasn't getting chances, I'd be more worried. But he is actually getting chances, he's just not taking them. Every striker goes through that whole thing, that they just go through a spell where they can't score goals. Every striker goes through, even the best of them. Shankland's having that just now, but it might just take something tonight to go in for him, and then that just kickstarts his whole season. That's what I'm hoping for. But if you base it on form, then right now, I'd probably say that Nisbet should be in the squad over Shankland.
Yeah, I mean, that was another one I've seen online a few times, how Nisbet isn't in the team. I thought he's had a really, really good start back in life up here. I thought, not just the goals, but he's getting so involved in Aberdeen's style of play. And it's, again, we keep saying it weekly, we're running out of words at this point, but Feline's side to watch is brilliant. It's such a refreshing, team to watch. And I think a striker like Nisbet really works well in it. And I actually think, and I'm going out on a limb saying this here, that I actually think Nisbet works better in Phelan's style of play than I think Miovski would have if he was back here. Now, that's not me writing Miovski off as a bad striker, and he's well earned his move to Girona. But I think with the way Phelan likes to play, Nisbet actually works so much better, and I think Aberdeen fans are seeing the best out of Nisbet. So I'm really surprised he didn't get a call up, to be honest.
I would answer that, Aviation, but we're basically talking about Scotland here, so I'll maybe do that in a different show about Vargas. But let's touch on another strike you mentioned there as well. Lyndon Dykes. You mentioned the fact he's got no goals. See, it's a weird one with Lyndon Dykes, because again, I think he does offer something. He offers physicality, and at times he is a threat. But again, if you're basing things on form, then Dykes wouldn't be in the Scotland squad, because he's not scoring goals. And if you've got a striker that's not scoring, it's a big, big worry. I think he does bring that physical presence, but what else is he offering? That's a big, big thing as well. What is Dykes offering?
Yeah, I mean, 10 games, 0 goals. If you're a Scotland fan, you think Dykes has very questionable pictures of Steve Clarke on his wall, because the fact he's still getting into that Scotland team is bizarre to me. I think Dykes is the definition of a loyalty player to Clarke. Like Grant Hanley, like Kenny McLean, like all these other players, Dykes will basically never get dropped unless he's forced to get dropped, because I think for me, Clarke is a very loyal man, as was said. I don't think Clarke has the heart to drop these type of players that he knows so well. And I'm not sure the reasons why Morgan and Adams came out the squad. I don't know if it was injury, but I'd bet that if Adams was fit, he would have been in the squad as well, because there's nothing more Steve Clarke likes than Dykes and Adams in the Scotland team. It is the front two. It has always been they two as the strikers. So I'm not surprised Dykes is in, but that record is absolutely shocking.
I mean, the thing is, if I'm an opposing manager, so if I'm like Croatia's manager tonight, for example, and I'm looking and thinking Dykes is up front, I'm not overly worried by that, because, like I say, he is a physical presence, but he's not scoring. So if I'm a Croatian manager or any other manager watching that, I'm not overly worried. I want a striker that's going to cause problems, that's got a decent goal scoring record. I just touched on Ryan Gauld there. I want something that's going to be a threat, and I just don't think Dykes is that. But it goes back to what I said, Dylan, what you just mentioned there. It's the loyalty issue. You know, at times, is Steve Clarke too loyal to some of these players? The likes of Kenny McLean, the likes of Lyndon Dykes? I think he probably is.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say, you know, for us to sit here and say that, but if we were in that position and, you know, we had these guys that was, you know, were sort of solidified for years for our careers, we'd probably still be very biased towards them. That is how it works. So I'm not surprised that Clarke keeps picking these strikers, but, you know, to have a League One striker sitting on, you know, in the team that scored 0 goals in 10 games in the third division of English football, that is worrying for us. You know, we don't have many attacking young options coming through, and it's scary. And I'm not too sure on the records of what the, you know, Ross Stewart's and all that sort of stuff are doing these days. But, you know, it's funny you mentioned the defensive point, because looking at the Croatia team quickly, you know, Clarke's in there, Sitalo, I know he's a good defender, Joseph Vardojo getting into Man City's team. So if, you know, if the Croatia's manager's looking at Lyndon Dykes, who scored 0 goals, he's going to be telling Clarke and Sitalo to have a field day by Lyndon Dykes, because the chances are he's probably not going to score. So, I mean, if you're the Croatia manager, you've got to be feeling confident with this, because none of this attacking options give me any hope, bar maybe Tommy Conway, who, you know, he has scored 5 goals. To give him credit, that is better than any of the out-and-out strikers, any of the other options we've got in the team. So that's maybe a glimmer of hope. I don't know if he'd maybe start, but aye, the fact that we're still starting Dykes, even having him in the team in 2024 is beyond me.
You're just showing off now with those Croatian names that you know.
I had to like, in all fairness, I know Clarke quite well. I think he played in the Premier League, but I had to write down a few key danger men, because, you know, it is a good team. It is a very good Croatia team. It's one that's slept on. You know, a lot of people are saying Scotland are better than Croatia. Man for man, we are not better than Croatia. We might have a better group, but they have better quality than us, much better quality. You only need to look at Modric to realise how good that Croatia team is.
It's funny, because even though I'm a Scotland fan and want Scotland to win tonight, I can't disguise the fact that I love watching Luka Modric play. He's such a quality footballer. I love watching these type of players play.
Yeah, he's one of the best midfielders that have ever done it. And, you know, it's like watching the Portugals. As much as I always want Scotland to win, you know, seeing Ronaldo scoring de the Suonis it was interesting to say the least to see. Also the fact that he trained in Paisley. I mean, when is that ever going to happen again with a player that big? Who knows? But aye, it's always good to watch players like that.
So let's assume that Scotland play 4-2-3-1 tonight, which we probably will. Team news should be out shortly. We're assuming that Craig Gordon's going to be in goals. Big problem at right back. Now, Anthony Ralston has been okay recently. I know he got a lot of stick at the Euros. He made a couple of big mistakes. Nicky Devlin, whenever he's come in so far, has been pretty decent. Who would your starting right back be? Would it be Ralston or would it be Nicky Devlin? Because personally, I would go for Nicky Devlin, based on form.
I would go for Devlin as well. And I'd ask the question to Steve Clarke, what has Ralston done to warrant a start in this game? He is not even the starter at Celtic right now, so that tells you all you need to know. And Devlin has looked decent this season, so I'd probably say Devlin, but let's be honest, at the back as well, as we're going to speak about, it's no particular depth. You know, I know we've got a few injuries here and there. Obviously, Hickey and Patterson are the big two, but it's looking, you know, as we'll speak about the centre backs in a minute, it's looking very, very dry right now for Scotland.
Leo says Devlin. Yep, I would agree with that. Johnny says, where can I watch the game? It is on the Scotland national team YouTube. For some strange reason, BBC Scotland couldn't be bothered to do it on their TV. But you'll know.
Sorry, I don't want to rant on that too much because it is a topic that can, get long discussion. But the fact that we can't get a TV deal sorted to show our channels, games, on free air is beyond me. I made the point on the show on Sunday that, there is an older type of generation that maybe don't know how to access YouTube and all this sort of stuff. So, if you're Scotland, as much as it's good for us, it's very easy to log on to YouTube for us and, go and find the game. For that older type of generation that maybe don't know how to use, phones and stuff so well, it'll be a task for them. So I'd encourage us to try and get this sorted out because, again, you can watch England games on our free-air TV, so why not Scotland games as well?
They showed the Masters on TV, but aren't they showing the Scotland game? I think that's pretty brutal, to be honest, but we've spoken about this numerous times before, and I know that Michael's got opinions on it by that as well, but it is really poor. I mean, why on earth, as a Scotland fan, would we want to watch England on ITV or something only when we're on the same time as Scotland? It makes no sense to me.
And it's no wonder
you've got a BBC Scotland channel. It's called BBC Scotland. You've got a BBC Scotland channel right there, yet we can't watch it. It's shocking.
Yeah, and it's no wonder that the younger generation are slowly becoming more and more England fans. I do see in Scotland a lot of people walking around England taps sometimes. It's beyond me that we've not got this issue sorted now because, I mean, if you look back to a few years ago, the games weren't even on TV at all. So the fact that, I do get we've come so far to even have the games on YouTube, but the fact we can't even get it on free-to-air TV is beyond me, and we're showing games, Friday night games on BBC Alaba, I'll never get it.
No, it's shocking, mate. Honestly, it is shocking. But left back, pretty much guaranteed Andy Robertson.
Yeah.
Now, here's the issue. The two centre-backs. Who are you starting at centre-back? Because I think Grant Hanley will start. I don't think he should. I would personally go John Souttar and Ryan Porteous.
I'd agree with Souttar and Porteous, but, if I'm a gambling man, I'm putting on Hanley and McKenna probably to start at centre-back at this rate. Or, Steve Clarke's feeling nice to probably start Hanley and McTominay at centre-back, knowing him. Honestly, I can't believe Ryan Porteous hasn't been in the team more. I think he's an absolutely outstanding defender. I really do. When he left Scotland, I was like, he's going to go far. He had his attitude problems at points. I get that. You only need to ask Steven Gerrard to figure that one out. But Porteous getting into England, I always thought he has a really bright future ahead of him, and the fact that he's no nailed on in that team sheet is beyond me.
I mean, Grant Hanley, again, it's a loyalty issue again. I mean, you go back to that game where we lost 3-2 to Poland. We should have won that game. And then Grant Hanley makes a stupid challenge in the last minute. And what frustrates me about that is the fact that it's not like it's a young player that's done that and you can go, do you know what? He's a young laddie, made a mistake. He's an experienced player. There is no need to make that challenge. It was ridiculous. And it's not like the first time he's done it. He does these daft things. Now, I know that Ryan Porteous does it as well. He got sent off against Germany. Again, these things happen. But Grant Hanley at times, you look at him and think, and you kind of said it there, how are you still playing for Scotland? I mean, seriously, shouldn't it happen?
Aye, it's mental. He's still even in the squad for Scotland, and it's another one of the loyalty players. But for Hanley, I mean, I still think about that penalty moment. What is he even trying to do there? Like, we speak so much about having good experience in the team, and I know that's a good thing to have. But when your experience is doing stuff like that, you might as well call up the Lennon Millers, because I guarantee you, Lennon Miller, when they do that in that moment, I know he's in a different position, but still, I bet you the Millers, Watsons of the world wouldn't even do that in that sort of position. So it's a really odd one with Hanley. Like, before that moment, people probably wouldn't have batted an eyelid at him. He has had a few solid performances for Scotland, there's no doubt about that. He's not always been really bad. I think when he makes a few mistakes, but it's hard to defend him. And I'm not surprised if he does start tonight, to be honest.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In the midfield, if we obviously go to Billy Gilmore, who starts alongside Billy Gilmore?
Well, I have just got the team news there, but
you got it.
Yeah. Do you want me to just read out the team news?
Aye, go for it.
Right. Let me just work at the formation quickly. Oh, by the way, right. Gordon in goals. Ralston's at right back. Robertson at left back. Back two of you guessed it, Grant Hanley and John Suter.
Of course it is.
In the midfield, it looks like it's going to be McTominay, Gilmore, McLean. McTominay, Gilmore, McLean will play in the midfield. Then, as attacking options, it's Ryan Christie, Ben Doak and Tommy Conway, who's actually starting up front, which I'm surprised about, to be honest.
Well, I did kind of think Conway might get the nod, to be honest. And we've basically just... I mean, again, you're looking at that team and thinking, okay, you kind of... Most of it you can understand. But again, Ralston over Nicky Devlin, I don't agree with that. Grant Hanley, we just spoke about it there. Kenny McLean, you spoke about it earlier. There's not a lot of massive changes in there. And again, you just wonder, where are the goals coming from? We just don't score enough goals. Where are they coming from?
I mean, to look at the positives, I think you said it pre-show that Ben Doak starting is only a good thing for the pace that he has. He's really, really good, but it's just a team now that it never excites me. I remember I used to always love seeing the Scotland teams and being excited to see who's starting, but this is deflating seeing Grant Hanley on this lineup again. I'm not gonna lie, I'm looking at his face and I just wish I wasn't there. It is so bad. Like it just Ralston starting as well. Oh, there's so many things I could say about that back line, but I'm more positive, about Ben Doak starting this game and Tommy Conway as well, finally getting a start. He's another one that's been in the team sheet for so long, and we've said countless times, when is Conway going to get his chance? Because, I'm not going to claim to have watched him week in, week out, but there is clearly quality there. That is why he's here. So it'll be finally good to see that tonight.
So I said it's a 4-2-3-1, where the two holding players are Gilmore, McLean. Then it'll be Doak wide right, Christie wide left, McTominay playing behind Tommy Conway. I'd imagine that'll be what happens. I mean, it's good to see Conway getting a start, and we did talk about it earlier. And I genuinely am pleased with the fact that Ben Doak's starting, because I watched a few of his games recently in the Championship, and his pace is frightening. And he's one of these wingers that I love. When he gets the ball, he just takes the man on. He doesn't care about reputation; he just takes his man on. And I don't think we've got enough of that. So I'm really pleased to see Doak starting. And hopefully, his pace against maybe older legs on that Croatia side could be of benefit to us tonight.
Yeah, I think so. Doak can really get at that defence, and I'm sure Conway will as well. But obviously, you look at that team sheet and it's missing John McGinn, and that's probably the big one for me that's missing at the team sheet. I'm really surprised that, McGinn hasn't started. I think he just recovered from an injury as well, so maybe he's just, taking it on the bench tonight. But it is an attack. I'll say it is an attack that excites me. It's an attack we've not seen before, but really starting. So this will be interesting to watch. But that defence frightens me.
Yeah, I think someone that I don't want to say doesn't get a lot of stick, Ryan Christie. Now, I don't think he's been brilliant recently. I know that he's a goal threat and he's doing well at Bournemouth. But anytime I've seen Ryan Christie recently, I've not been overly impressed with him.
Yeah, Ryan Christie's a weird one. I do think he's a good player. But, if you're basing it off a form, especially Scotland form, I really don't think he should be playing this type of game. It feels like another one of the loyalty players. I know we keep mentioning it, but it does. It's a player that's always going to be in and around the Scotland squad because he is just there. I mean, I'm looking at Christie's stats right now. He's 11 games, 1 goal, 0 assists. So, stats-wise, he's not having the best goal, best time, obviously. Football's, again, not played on paper, but again, Christie, I think I'd agree with you where I don't think he's hit the heights that a lot of people thought he would. There's no doubt he can be a good player for us, but I just don't think he's showing it right now.
No, I'd agree. I just think at times he flatters to receive a little bit. I don't mind him, and he has scored some big goals for Scotland. There's no doubt about that. But again, those stats you've just read out there are not exactly encouraging. And again, I think our biggest threat tonight will be Scott McTominay.
Yeah, it feels like we could say that by any Scotland game, to be honest with you. McTominay, for the past year and a half now, has probably been one of Scotland's key players. He's been so good. He's very consistent as well. There's no a time where McTominay really has a poor performance, you would say. He is always, that average or above. So I suppose McTominay, he will be that guy to try and get Scotland forward. I expect us with this lineup to be very high pressing, very attacking, just with the way it's set out, a lot of pace to go at this Croatian team. So I do expect a good game tonight, and I think it will be a very attacking game from us.
I know it's difficult to answer this, but do you think Steve Clarke should be sticking somebody as a man marker on Luka Modric? Because if we let him dictate the tempo of this game, we could be in trouble.
Yeah, but it's always a weird one because, I do agree that, Modric is no doubt going to be their key player. But Clarke said a few times now that he wants to start focusing on our team and our qualities more than, the opposition. I think sometimes Clarke would admit himself he has focused on the opposition a bit too much and try to play into, try to stop their players. When you look at the McTominay's hand, I was about to say Grant Hanley, no, definitely no Hanley. The Doaks, Christies and stuff, we should be focusing more on what we can do on the ball rather than what the opposition will do. So I do agree that, there definitely will be instructions there to try and stop Modric and, slow his game down. But I think Clarke should be leaning more towards playing, through the qualities of our play and showing what we can do.
How big a night is this going to be for Tommy Conway? Because he's got the starting jersey over Lyndon Dykes, which is maybe no surprise, and Lawrence Shankland. How big a moment could this be for him?
I mean, I don't want to call it too early, but this is make or break for Conway. He's built his way into the team. You've got to say, for most fans, the casual watching fan, out of nowhere, really, Conway's built his way into the Scotland team. He just sort of came into the squad one time and he's been here ever since. So for Conway, this is a make or break type of game. If he can get goals and more importantly do well, he will probably keep that place in the team. And in my opinion anyway, but if he does bad, he's just going to find himself at the team again, struggling to get back in, because with the strikers, Dykes and Shankland that are off form right now, this is a chance. Conway knows, and he will know, that he needs to take this opportunity while the Shankland's no hitting the high that he was last season. Or, if he does do poor and then Shankland comes on again, that's it. I don't see him being able to break back in. So this really is a must, well performance for Conway tonight.
I mean, talking of big nights, again, I've not always been on social media because we're doing the show. Anthony Ralston at right back. Again, it's going to have divided opinion, I'm sure, on Twitter and stuff. I'm sure a lot of folk won't be happy about that. The thing is, I think Ralston for Celtic looks decent because he's not playing against great quality, if we're going to be honest. He can get away with stuff. Against teams like Croatia, if he makes mistakes, he will get punished. I think this is a big night as well for Ralston, because at times I think he's okay. Other times I think he's a bit of a bomb scare. It's a big night for Ralston as well tonight, because I think a lot of folk like myself would probably think maybe start Nicky Devlin based on the form that he's in just now at Aberdeen.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things I can't say on here that's being said in that Scotland comment section, so I'll let your imagination go there. But for Ralston, it is a big night, and I actually think during the Euros, especially in that Germany game, bar I think it was the way the first goal happened, I could be wrong, I actually don't think Ralston played that bad. I think, if I'm right in saying, there was a few times he did get, skinned on that sort of side, but you're playing a German opposition who are full with world beaters in there, so that wasn't really surprising. But I actually thought he held his own quite well during the Euros at points whenever they played. I don't think Ralston's that bad. Again, I would have rather Devlin, but I think Ralston's one that if you can get him on a good night and, he can do well, then I think you've got a decent player in there. I'm not saying, on a good night he's going to be whipping balls in, getting assists here and there, but it will give you solid defensive cover. So I think Ralston, it's not a bad option. I don't think it's a horrible option like Grant Hanley is, but I think Ralston will give you a bit of stability at the back.
I mean, someone else that's come under a bit of pressure, and I suppose I do understand it a little bit, is Andy Robertson, the captain. He's been out of a great season for Liverpool this season. I know he's had a lot of injuries, but I think the last couple of games for Scotland's actually been all right. Do you think that the stick that he's received recently is justified or not?
I'd probably say not, and that's coming from a guy that said about 4 months ago that I don't think Robertson should be Scotland captain anymore. That's just my opinion. I honestly, I think I mean, if you were to ask me who, I probably wouldn't be able to answer. I just don't think he's the right suited for captain. For me, obviously, I'm not spending a whole international break with him, so I don't know. Obviously, Clarke has picked his captain based on that, so I'm going to respect that. But I don't think Robertson, has been particularly bad. I don't think any of the Scotland team's been really bad, to be honest with you. It's just been, again, those late goals and those mistakes that have cost us. So I think the criticism that Robertson gets, your captain always gets more criticism. You only need to look at Rangers and James Tavernier. He realised that, your captain will always take the front. Besides the manager, he will always take the criticism off of fans every time. So I'm not surprised Robertson's getting a lot of stick, but I definitely say it's probably no warranty, to be honest. I don't think he's been that bad.
Yeah, I mean, I like Andy Robertson, obviously, follow Liverpool as you do as well, and I like Andy Robertson. I think he's actually been better in the last few weeks, so I think tonight is a big game for him as well, because he is up and down that left-hand side all the time. And I think this could be a big, big game for him. It's a big game for Scotland. We've talked about it previously. Now, again, I think the Nations League is a good thing because it cuts out the friendlies, which are boring, let's be honest. Nobody likes the friendly games. I think the Nations League actually is good because it does mean something. Now, of course, if Scotland don't get out of this group, we get relegated, which is not a great thing. But I generally think that the Nations League games takes away from these glorified friendlies that, let's be honest, nobody likes. This is one thing I think UEFA's done well, bringing this Nations League games down, because they are competitive. And I think that's what you want. You don't want to be going on national duty playing in a friendly game that means nothing. And let's be honest, how many times over the last few years, Robbie, not just Scotland, but every international club, how many times have you seen clubs pull players out of these games because they're friendly games? You don't see a lot of that now, though, in Nations League games, because they mean something.
Yeah, it's very uncommon for a player to get pulled out of an international team now. I did actually see, funnily enough, speaking about that, England dropped 6 England players pulled out before their international break, which is understandable. They are talking about whatever, but apart from that, it's not really happened often, to be honest with you. And it's a good thing, as you said, it's competitive football, which we all love to see. One thing I will say with Scotland fans is, if we get to the next set of friendlies and they call up Lennon Miller, you can almost guarantee the fans will be more excited for that rather than watching this tonight. Which, look, I don't agree with that, but it is just the way it is. Saying that for this game tonight, the closer it becomes to kick-off, we can sit here and say at our respective clubs that we don't want international breaks right now, and obviously it's different for every club. But one thing that happens is when you're getting closer to kick-off, and we're about an hour away for kick-off now, you get excited for the build-up to these games. You really start to feed into it. So this should be a great night. I expect the crowd will be great as well. I don't know if it's a sellout or not, but I expect it will be for a game like this. So it will be huge.
I think as well, especially because it's the last Nations League game at Hampden. It's the last game at Hampden for a while. I think you want to send the fans away with a decent result, and as well, a performance as well that they can go away and think, do you know what? That was good tonight. We enjoyed that. Because it's not happened a lot, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I was able to go to Hampden was the Northern Ireland game where we lost 1-0. And that is potentially the worst Scotland game I've watched in years. We were so flat in the crowd, the atmosphere just wasn't there. So I think for Scotland tonight, for the whole team, and Clarke will make it clear, the expectation on these players to go out and get a good performance in will be huge. If this is a very boring 1-0 scrappy game, fans will lose interest. And to be honest with you, fans are starting to lose interest. I have friends that have lost major interest in watching Scotland now. I don't personally get it. I've lost a bit since the Euros. I think getting knocked out of a tournament in that style always takes a bit out of you. But to the extent that I've seen some people go with Scotland, it's mental, because you look at the place we come from a few years ago, playing the Kazakhstans, the Gibraltars and stuff, the Cyprus, in these friendly matches where they don't matter, it's not entertaining. So to have, a time where we're in the top group, we're actually doing better than England right now on the groups and stuff, at a time where, we have good players, as much as I've just spent the last hour really hating Grant Hanley, it is a good group of players and it is a good squad. So I think a lot of people, I don't really know what the word is, I'd say maybe not appreciating Scotland enough. a lot of people are taking it for granted because, if the next group of players don't work out, we could easily find ourselves down there again, playing the rubbish games and not doing well. So I think we've just got to appreciate what we have while we've got it.
And this is where the debate about Steve Clarke comes in again, because so many times over the last few months and years we've criticised Steve Clarke saying the football's not been great. But actually, if you look at it, like I've said to Michael and Mike in that before, look at what he's done. He's got us to 2 Euros qualifiers. He's got us to 2 Euros. He's got us into Nations League Group A, which we've not done before. Steve Clarke's done a very good job. Could he have done better? Potentially, yes. I think the Euros were disappointing. We all know that. Germany game was one of these games that was against Germany. The whole thing was going to happen. We did well against Switzerland, but the Hungary game was very poor. But I think if you take it in isolation, the job that Steve Clarke's done has been very impressive. Where do you sit in the whole Steve Clarke issue?
Well, I know I did say I'd answer the question, so I know you've not asked, but I'll answer it anyway. I'm very much Steve Clarke in now. After the Euros, again, as I said, it does take a lot out of you. I was probably leaning more on the fence or changing it up a bit if Clarke wasn't going to change things. But you have to say, as much as he's not really changed the team sheet, he has changed the way he plays. It's very much different for that Euros. And Steve Clarke will admit through his time at Scotland, he has made mistakes. And he probably could have done a lot of things differently, but that is a part of life. That is what happens. You do run into times where you make mistakes in your job or whatever, and you do learn from it. So I think Clarke is learning from it, and I just think people need to, again, I know I keep saying it, but people need to appreciate what we have, because Clarke has gotten us to 2 major tournaments that a manager's not been able to do for years. Just think about that. I mean, yes, in the tournaments we could have done better, but we have. And I think we kept making this point to Michael, and by the way, I'll just say, Michael, I don't know if you're watching, but you will never change your mind, will you? You will always be Steve Clarke out, because the amount of times, you and Mikey specifically have it has been mental. But
It's very funny though.
It's very entertaining indeed. But for Scotland, I just think people, we get there and we think, right, we should be getting through this. And look, our group wasn't easy. We had Germany, Hungary, and Switzerland. They are 3 very tough teams. We have no right to be beating any of them. We don't. We have a right to be there because we're beating the teams in front of us. But beating them 3, I don't think we had any chance, quality for quality. If you look at the way the actual games went, you'd argue differently. Which obviously is fair because, again, football's watched on the pitch. So I think with the way the games went, we probably should have got through. We didn't. There's still a lot of positives to take for that. I thought at times we actually played very well, especially in the Switzerland game. So for the people that are Steve Clarke out, I'd want to ask you, who do you want as a replacement? Because I don't think David Moyes would get you anywhere near to what Steve Clarke's getting you. I don't think he's an exciting change at all. I think the only one I'd argue is maybe Derek McInnes. And 2, just look at where we've come from and look at what Steve Clarke's accomplished. It's been amazing to see in the last few years.
I think at times it's be careful what you wish for. Now I know that Michael's point is when you get to too much, you want to compete, and I get that. But I think when you're playing teams like we were, it is difficult. Now the Hungary games, like I said, this was frustration because I thought we were poor in that game. We didn't do enough. But you're taking on the hosts, who we know are a very good side and they've got a lot of quality in there. And as Switzerland said, to qualify for these tournaments just about every single time, it's very difficult. Yes, you do want to get to do well when you get there, but you're playing against really good teams here. We are not at a level that we can compete against likes of these teams. But I do get the point that Michael makes, but I think you've got to be careful what you wish for. Anyone that's wanting Steve Clarke out, you just mentioned it there. I don't think David Moss will take the job. I don't think he wants the Scotland job. Derek McInnes, again, I don't think he would take it just now. I don't want to go down another route of another foreign manager because it didn't work under Bertie Vogts. That was an absolute disaster. So then you've got to be careful what you wish for. And you've got to look at the job that Steve Clarke's done. I think he's our most successful manager since Craig Brown. And who else is going to do a better job? I think it's a very difficult one.
Yeah, it's a question I'd love to hear any Steve Clarke outers try and answer, because I really don't think you can, based on who's available right now. And one thing with Clarke is with that Germany game, I think he did learn a lesson for that, a huge lesson. If you look at how I think it was Albania done in their group, they actually went toe-to-toe with, I think it was Italy at the time, and they actually gave them a really good game. If we set up differently, could have we gave Germany a game? Probably not. Still, just based on purely the way they played in that game, they were outstanding for the opener game. But Steve Clarke learned a lot for that game, and I think he admitted it himself at the time that getting to more of these tournaments, you learn more, and that's ultimately it for Steve Clarke. He's still, although he's been in the job for a while, he's still hitting learning curves that he needs to establish, because it's never ending. You will always learn something new after every game. So for Clarke, I think he learned a lot, but also to give the point that I think Clarke deserves a chance at World Cup qualification again. He has earned that right with the €2 that he's qualified us for. I think he's the man that could get us there. And ultimately, I think that was his one message to the fans, that, I deserve this. I deserve a shot at going for the World Cup. So I'm more than happy to keep him in until that point. And probably after the World Cup, that'll probably be the right time for him to go. And I think he said himself that's probably when he will leave. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. Now, it's not often that I'm going to bring up England on this, but I wanted to raise a point that I saw yesterday from Harry Kane, or the day before, I think it was. Harry Kane basically said that for him, it would always be country over club. Now, I found that quite strange, because I don't think a lot of folk would agree with that. For me, I am always, especially like when you've got a football club to support, it's always for me club over country. I don't know how many other players would say that it's country over club. Where do you stand with that? Because I think most fans would definitely say club over country.
Yeah, it's always a weird one. I feel like it's very preference based. I mean, look at Harry Kane, he can't even win a trophy no matter where he plays. So his opinion is, I don't even know, man. But I think for me, it's always club over country, and it always will be. See, there's nothing better than seeing your club lift a silverware, no matter what it is. There's nothing better than seeing your club lift a trophy. But I feel like it also depends on where you're from. I mean, for Scotland fans, are we expected to win any tournaments? Absolutely not. We're miles off of that. If you look at England, and I feel like a lot more England fans would say country over club, they look at the English national team and they go, we have winners in here. Not big up England too much, but they have a squad that is very capable of winning an international tournament. So for England, I feel like it's a bit different. I feel like it comes down to really where you're from, and I'm not surprised Harry Kane's saying that, but I'd probably say I'm more club over country always, but again, it always feels like it comes from where you're from. I'm sure if you were to ask French fans, they'd probably say country over club, some of them as well. I think that is just the way it works ultimately, but I mean, where do you stand on it? I'm guessing you're club over country as well.
Oh, all the time. My affiliations with Hearts. Yes, of course, when Scotland come around, I do support us. I've got the Scotland top on the night, but it's always club over country for me. Now, I don't know if many players would agree that for them it's country over club. I get that it's a big thing to play for your country. Of course it is. But your first priority is your club. If you get injured on international duty, you could be out for months and months. And you're getting paid a lot of money for your club. I think you get paid far more than you do for your country. So I think it's always, for me, club over country. I get, like I said, I do get that you want to play for your country. Of course you do. But for me, I think it's always, if you asked pretty much most fans of clubs, they would always say club over country. 100%, I think.
Yeah, and I also feel like that's a fan thing as well. As fans, international breaks do always only come around a few times a year. So for us, we're much more suited to watching our clubs. I'd be interested to hear what Grant Hanley's answer would be on that, actually, just looking at him. I wonder what he would say if he preferred playing with club or country.
Watch this. Hanley's going to score a hat-trick tonight and shut you up.
Listen, if Hanley's
we've not got long left. We are back on tonight at 10 o'clock again. Myself and Robbie were back on to review the Scotland game. Hopefully it's a Scotland victory. We are playing Croatia, as I said, at 7:45 tonight in the Nations League, our final home Nations League game of the campaign. It is live on the Scotland YouTube channel, so if you want to watch it there, you can watch it there. But before we go, we have to do prediction. So, Robbie, I know that you're nervous, excited. What's your thoughts going into this game? What are your predictions ahead of this game against Croatia?
I mean, I don't want to drag on for too long. Firstly, we need to score first. This is massive. We get the first goal. If we let Croatia dictate the play in this game, we will be in trouble very early, because they can cause real problems. I mean, we went that far and didn't even mention Kramaric up front, who's a really dangerous striker for them. So, we need to dictate this play. We need to get at them. Use Doak, use Conway, use their pace, get at this Croatia team. And if we do that, there's no doubt we can win. So, for my prediction, I'm going to go Scotland 3, Croatia 2.
Predicting a lot of goals on this one. I'm also going to go for a Scotland win, and I'm going to go for 1 goal again. I'm going to go 2-1 Scotland. I think it'll be difficult. I think you're right. I think we have to score first, try and get the crowd on side. But I just want to see us go at them from the start. Make it difficult for them. Don't let them settle, and especially do not let Luka Modric settle. You cannot allow him to dictate this game. So yeah, big game for Scotland tonight. Again, we have to win to try and stay in Nations League Group A. We're back on at 10 o'clock. Hope you can join us then. Like I say, we'll also be back on Monday as well to do the preview and the review of the last Poland game in the Nations League. But join us at 10 o'clock. Come on, Scotland. Let's hope we get a win. And hopefully, Grant Hanley gets man of the match.
Come on, Hanley.
Catch you later, folks.